Hello from Cyprus. My name is Myron Edwards. I'm a writer for Rock Hill Publishing, and my first book is Mistress of the Rock. The second book is Scylla The Revenge, and I'd like to read you an excerpt from that now. Just bear with me for 1 second. Okay, we pick up the story after Richard Cole, who is the hero of the book Mistress of the Rock, is now set upon a new course of, shall we say, action. This particular excerpt relates to the Zenobia, which is a ship that sunk on its maiden voyage. So let's pick up the story from chapter 5, the Zenobia. For Lenny Spiegel and his wife Jenny, the MS Zenobia had become a bit like a second home. They both knew the vessel so well and treated it with the greatest respect, knowing full well of its track record of 4 diving deaths. Whilst most areas of the ship are safe and accessible, some parts of the vessel can be deadly, as it is so easy to get lost, and once that happens, the chances of finding your way back before the oxygen runs out are remote. Fortunately, none of the divers on Sundivers have ever been in that position. Lenny liked to keep a tight ship. As the boat made its way out from Larnaca, the 6 men and women began to kit up with last-minute adjustments in preparation for their dive. Jenny was pleased with the group because they'd all dived before, which meant that she too could go diving. No babysitting this time. The sea around the wreck was calm as the boat came to a gradual stop, then dropped anchor. The first 2 divers leant on the side of the hull and disappeared backwards over and under the water. The small bubbles that surfaced showed their equipment working well. Jenny put her mask on and waited for Lenny as he tied a rope around the remaining air tanks, and he and Jenny joined the others in the blue crystal-coloured sea. Dressed in their wetsuits, it wasn't easy to tell the temperature of the sea, the clarity of the water like glass as they filed past a few fish stragglers. As they swam deeper, the silt and sand billowed towards them. What was causing it? Neither of them were sure. The Zenobia was at 42 metres, lying on its side on the seabed. Some of its cargo, including a few of the 100-plus lorries scattered over the seabed and to the rear of the ship, more spilled cargo littered the floor, including pots of paint and rusting air conditioners and some Tonka toys, which made the scene very surreal. Jenny looked around to see some of the group entering the wreck. She motioned to Lenny that she was going inside. He raised his thumb, indicated his approval as he moved away towards the bows of the vessel. Once inside, Jenny began to explore. Her air bubbles the only sound audible as she scooted in and out of the deck. Even now, and after all these years of diving, she sometimes discovered new things that she hadn't seen before. As she moved down the ship gangway, she spotted a shiny object. It was a silver coin, perhaps a Swedish krona, that had wedged itself into a grating on the deck. She placed it inside a small pocket on her wetsuit before moving back along the deck. Just ahead of her, she noticed something else. Something else was moving. She wasn't sure what it was, but it looked black in colour and had a distinctive side-to-side movement. As she drew closer, she looked for her small waterproof torch. It would give her just enough light to check it out. As the shape moved away from her, Jenny followed cautiously. She checked her watch. She had just about 10 minutes of air left. She should turn back, but this was somehow exciting as she followed the unfamiliar shape. As she moved stealthily along the decks, visibility became less and less, and it was difficult to see exactly what was ahead of her. The feeling that crept through her was no longer excitement. It was anxiety and fear. Fear of what might lay in wait, and although she knew that it was not safe to go on, especially as she couldn't see 2 feet in front of her, she continued. One thing that became obvious to her was the intense silence. All wrecks creak and occasionally rattle, and the MS Zenobia was no different. Only today she was silent, and with each move Jenny took, she felt herself being drawn further away from where she needed to be. As she moved slowly, she hoped Lenny would be looking for her. She clicked the torch on. The beam lit up the floor below her. How far she had gone down she wasn't sure, as she wasn't familiar with this part of the ship. Ahead of her was an open door, with enough room to squeeze through. This was somehow new to her. As she pushed against the door to open it, With her torch piercing through the darkness, she scanned the area around her. She felt a surge of water enter the room, and then a gushing sound as the floor began to open below her. She looked down, and through the half-light, two large, bright, red eyes moved towards her at rapid speed. Frozen by fear, she stared back at them. She dropped the torch, and the beam shone down into the hole, the bright white light distracting whatever it was that was coming for her. Jenny tried to get away, pushing herself through the door as fast as she could, as whatever it was moved back into its sanctuary. Jenny fought for breath as she left the wreck and surfaced. Lenny was still below the water looking for her. He spotted her from below. He surfaced and swam quickly to his wife, holding her as she ripped the mask from her face. Tears streamed down her face, and as she shook visibly in the water, as if wrapped in ice. Lenny held her. He didn't say anything, just eased her closer to the boat, as the two of the men on the boat leaned forward to drag her on board.